So, Eamon, looking forward to a county final. I'm sure we're just talking here the week before it. Reflecting back on the semi final, Thurles Sarsfield's close rivals, big rivalry between the club, and difficult day for hurling, but just great to get over a semi final like that.
Yeah, particularly we thought we hurled well, but we conceded 2 goals, which is going to make it very difficult in the conditions. I thought in the second half, particularly against the breeze, our forwards worked very hard, and it didn't give SARS the platform they would like maybe to get the good ball in. So it wasn't pretty. It probably wasn't a great game of hurling for the neutral to look at, but I was delighted with the effort and great to get across the line.
Yeah, it's back into a final now for what is a very experienced team. You're going in against the Toomevara team now, who a lot of their players wouldn't have experienced the big day. So that's probably a little bit of an advantage to have an experienced squad of players heading into a novel day, a big day for hurling in the county.
Yeah, maybe this bunch, but as a club, there's a massive tradition, and Ken has played in a lot of county finals, and Shane Hassett there is coaching them. He was involved in coaching Clare to win an All Ireland final, so to have the guys around him that will be able to talk them through that. So I think it's a leveler. Their record in finals is second to none. Like they've won, I think 11 of the last 12. Like they went through a period there in the 90s and early 90s where they dominated Tipperary hurling, and you can see what they're doing underage. They have had a fantastic year. It's no surprise to me to see them in the final. I thought all year that they're a very, very honest team, right? They go about their business very well. They work hard. Some lovely ball players. You have the three McCarthy's in the forwards, particularly Dara. It looks like he's the next Eamon Kelly type player. He's a really, really super player. And you have the Delaney's Darren. He seems to be getting better with age, and Jack Delaney, these fellas, they're all match winners, and you have young Hall, and they have them all over the place. So they're not a one-man team. They're very, very honest. They're well coached, well organised, and so we know that even what we did the last day won't be enough to get across the line with them.
For yourself, you were involved with Patrick's Well last year, involved with plenty of clubs and plenty of county teams down through the years. Last year you would have been in a county final with Patrick's Well. Coming in here now in the Tip Championship, is there any noticeable difference between the two championships or anything like that, or any kind of difference at all between a Patrick's Well team in a county final and a Loughmore team in a county final?
Listen, somebody asked me that question about the standard. I think the Tipperary Championship is a really open championship, and Limerick is somewhere predictable in the last 10 years because Patrick's Well, Kilmallock, Doon and Napier have been in the last 4 every year, so it's quite predictable. Like you look at Tipperary, you have a top team like Borsaley end up in a relegation playoff. You have Killerwan won a county final in relegation the following year and could have beaten us in a quarter final this year. So I think the Tip Championship, since they changed it around and made it to 16 teams, is extremely competitive, and it's very open, and you have a lot of teams that can win it. So I think the Tip Championship is really, really up there.
Yeah, definitely. And for yourself coming into Loughmore, we've heard so much about Loughmore, they're going for a double as we talk here. The football hasn't been played yet, but you hear so much about it being a special club because of how competitive they are in both hurling and football. From you being in there now in your first year, what have you noticed about the club that has kind of stuck out that makes it probably a little bit special?
I think it's the whole parish. Everyone seems to love their sport, not just hurling and football. These bunch of players, and it's not the 15. We have 36 guys in the panel. They're an absolute pleasure to deal with. There's no egos. They all have very high standards. They expect the best from each other. The likes of Noel and John and Brian have been off with Tip there, and they come back and they have really, really set the standards and kept them high, and they love their club. So it's about the whole, we have ladies there making tea for us after training. They just all want to get the best out of each other, and I'm fortunate enough to be there, and it would be foolish of me to take any credit. They've been there and done that. The backroom team we have are second to none. Like Paul Tracy's a tool man, and he's been doing that zoo training, and Mikey Ryan is a club man of mine. He's been doing the physical training with him, and I'm probably fortunate that Aidan Stakelum was a guy that I hadn't known. I knew him from a hurling perspective, but I hadn't known him from a coaching side of things. This is the best coach that I've ever dealt with. He's absolutely top class, and he probably deserves any plaudits that are to be given in terms of what the lads have achieved this year. They've really bought into what he has done. You know, he's probably the key cog in the wheel. You know, and I think he's one that Tipperary should be keeping an eye on for underage teams, because he's quite young, and he's really modern in his approach.
Yeah, and you mentioned Paul Tracy there, of course, the strength and conditioning coach. Toomevara, man, has it been keeping him out of team meetings at the minute, or how's that worked out?
I don't know. Actually, he has a new business open in Templemore, so he might have. He needs to keep that side of the things right as well now, you know. But he's been fantastic himself and Mikey in terms of what they've been doing, and the fitness side of things earlier on in the year. We put a massive focus in at the start of the year around trying to get as much strength and conditioning work in, with the view to going back-to-back week hurling and football. And touch wood, it's paid dividends so far, but your heart will be in your mouth next Sunday. Like when the lads are playing football, a county semi-final against Mile Rovers, if we pick up an injury, you know, and we don't have a lot of time between games to get ready then, you know.
Yeah, the lads seem to be so used to that. But also for yourself coming in as manager this year, you've had an unbeaten run to the final in the mid-championship and the county championship, but it hasn't been easy by any stretch against Thurles in the mid. You know, it came down to the last 10 minutes, similarly in the mid-final, and the county championship games were similar for the most part in terms of the Nina game came down to nearly last puck of the game. The Killer 1 game was tight throughout, and the Thurles game was tight throughout. So you haven't really had time to maybe sit back and enjoy any of these good wins while they're happening.
Absolutely not. And I suppose it doesn't count for anything now. The clock goes back to zero. You can't drive the car through the rear view mirror, you'll crash, you know. It's grand. What's achieved is achieved, but when we set up at the start of the year, this is the one prize we wanted to do, was try to get your hands on Dan Breen. We're an hour away from it with a massive task, and you need an awful lot to go right in the day for that to happen.
You've dealt with plenty of top players in your time. Last year, Patrick Swell, and the top players they have, Keane Lynch, Dermot Burns, these fellas. With Loughmore, you know, John and Noel McGrath in particular, and Brian have been key players for Tipperary and for their club throughout the last decade or so. What's it been like kind of working with kind of some of those top players in recent years?
It's a pleasure to work with them. That's the best way you could describe it, you know. I think the setup we have is good, as I mentioned the lads already, but it's no problem dealing with these fellas. But what's from us, from Loughmore point of view, the lads you mentioned there, particularly Noel, Brian and John, they didn't get a lot of game time with Tipperary, so they came back quite fresh, you know, and they integrated there straight away. But any days that we were playing games, whether it were challenge matches or league matches or Cahill Cup, and they weren't involved in Tipperary, they were in the dressing room with us anyway. So they love their club, and it's you know, I said this before, my mother is 81 years of age, she could manage Loughmore, you know what I mean? It's because of these guys, you know.
County final day, it's always a massive day in Tipperary. This year it nearly feels like it's going to even be bigger. It's kind of a novel county final. It's never happened before. The county final and before you, the Premier Intermediate, Carrick Swan and Cashel, two well-supported teams trying to get back up to senior. It's kind of going to be a special day in Semple Stadium on the 13th.
Yeah, I mightn't enjoy it, but because you'll be nervous, and I suppose you have the 4 divisions, you know, you have you're like, I know Toomevara, like they're a hugely traditional club, and they've always had huge following, and I know they'll be there with supporting. Loughmore similar, you know, like the two teams you mentioned, the Premier Intermediate, like they'll be going hammer and tongs at it as well. So hopefully, listen, hope to this time of the year, it's a lottery with the weather, and the semi-final for our game was quite bad. It would be great if we got a decent day and hopefully get a good feast of hurling.
Will you enjoy that final, do you think, or while the game is happening? Is it, you know, you mentioned it's a nervy time for everyone involved with these teams, but you know, do you get to enjoy those games as they're happening, or is it just kind of you're just in the moment and it's probably nearly over before you even realise?
Yeah, it's for me. It's first of all, I hate the hour beforehand. You know, you're just waiting and looking, and you know, you're trying to analyse players. How are they today? And you know, who's nervous looking, who's not, and that part of it I don't enjoy. Well, I'm probably gone full circle. I was a bit of a lunatic on the line for years, and I was probably, you know, rightly so, the target of more for free. I try zone out now and try analyse what's happening and see where we can make a change, you know. But it's only afterwards, like, I enjoyed the second half the last day. Even when we conceded the goals in the first half, I thought we were doing what we set out to do. And that's pleasing enough. It gets very frustrating when things are going the way that you haven't planned. So even though it wasn't a spectacle the last day, So for me, it was one of the most satisfying days in the line, because I felt, even, I often felt like this is, if we can give the best account of ourselves, and we can all look each other in the eye afterwards, and we left everything out there. We actually had done that, even the result has gone against us last Sunday, and that's the only part of it you take a bit of pleasure out of.
Well, I can't wait myself for this county final. So thanks for talking to me, Eamon, and the best of luck to you.
No problem. Thanks very much, Paul.
Go!
It's down to the final two in the FBD Insurance County Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship as Loughmore Castleiney take on Toomevara in the final this Sunday in FBD Semple Stadium. Throw in 3:45. Tip FM will bring full live coverage and analysis in association with Mullinahone Co-op, fueling farms and families and simplifying your farming life since 1893.